Well, hello, 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 party people. We are back here
Hello.
tonight for another T is
Hello.
Talking session with myself, T. And we have the professor, Ryan Jones, in the house, and the doctor is in the house. Dr. Watkins is here to, I always say this is the show where we bring inspiration, information, and shenanigans. So I guess I'll be the shenanigans, and Doctor will be the information, and Ryan will be the inspiration.
I thought
But
I was
can we
supposed to be.
switch?
Oh,
Can we
sure.
switch?
At any
Okay.
time. At any time. At any time. Let me get our names up here. At any time when you feel like being the shenanigans, just go for it. And I won't stand in your way because I'm all about the shenanigans, especially when people get too deep. I understand that we are all ministers in our own right, but T is talking is really not for us to speak in tongue. It's for us to get clarity on issues that might arise in church. But we got some concerns, just some concerns. So, we need to straighten those things out. But at any point, if you feel like speaking in tongue, go for it. If you feel like exegeting a text, go for it. But I'm usually going to be the shenanigans. I like that job. All right? So tell the people how you are tonight. Ryan, you was here last week, so let ladies first. Let Doctor tell us how her day was and how things are going out there. Where she be?
So I bring you greetings from the amazing state of Michigan, and Detroit is where I live. I'm a
Sweet.
Presbyterian minister, and today was a good day,
That's good.
a really good day. I was able to worship, even though it was online,
Yes.
with a congregation, and to just be present and to live and to enjoy what God has given us, which is a day of Sabbath.
I'm glad you're feeling better, Pastor, Doctor. I'm
Yes.
glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad you're able to join us this week. I'm excited about the conversation, but let the handsome gentleman on the right side of me, I don't know, probably flip the other way for some folk. Tell us how your day was and what's going on over there in your world.
I am. I have been amazingly well, with the exception of that vacation depression. After you come back from a vacation, and you're in reality like, take me back,
Yeah,
take me back to the beach, and so forth. But I'm amazingly well. I'm grateful for this day.
I'm happy to hear that. I was depressed the other way that you were. Where were you at in Mexico? Where were you at?
Puerto Vallarta.
Puerto Vallarta. And I was sitting here in Connecticut worried about if it was going to snow yesterday.
Wow.
Just upsetting. Very upsetting. My spirit man was stressed out. But I wasn't going to hate on your vacationing, and I hope you had a great time. And I'm not a hater. And we gonna have to go back there together, so we can cut up,
Absolutely.
another.
But
Uh,
I'm in Texas now, and you see, I have on a full sweater because the temperature
it's cool down there.
is
It's
is
cool
cool.
there.
So
Oh,
yeah, so
that's
you fretting snow. I'm
listen. I
fretting.
had on a full winter coat today because I was like,
Oh,
the
Oof.
flowers is saying spring, but it was cold to me. It was just I just had on my long coat and I had on my scarf because I was like, I can't afford to be losing no voices. So the weather's bipolar here, so we just roll with the punches. And tomorrow it'll probably be like 70,
But
but
see,
that
up there,
don't.
y'all wear first. Y'all wear first because you have to, not just because it's cute.
Right. New York, Connecticut, Boston, we need fur coats. Yes, amen.
Detroit, Chicago, all.
Yeah, well, I forgot about them. Oh God, they got the
mm,
wicked wind out there.
Doctor got to get her a fur coat and a hat. No,
And all of this weather is new for me
Yeah.
because I'm a girl raised in the South.
Oh, okay.
And I came to Michigan. I'm like,
Oh,
hmm, what y'all doing up in here? This,
I need to
I
go
don't
home.
appreciate this weather is being disrespectful to my southern roots.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
it definitely gets that way. And sometimes I go to work. This was funny because I wear wigs a lot. So and then I just started happening to like straighten out my hair because I just don't be wanting to be bothered. And I got to work one day, and I'm so used to wearing a wig, Pastor, a doctor, that I didn't even realize that I still have my hat on. So it's like almost time to go home, and I'm like, oh, little bong bong sitting on top. Pray my strength in the Lord. He gonna
Amen.
finish his work in me. Yes, he is.
That's right. That's right. As global warming happens,
Yes. Oh God. Oh God. I'm concerned, but
yeah.
anyway, we have some guests in our chat. Listen, any questions that you might have that arise as we are talking, please feel free to say them. I'm going to try to make sure they get on the screen so our guests can see them also, so they won't think I'm just making up questions in my mind, which probably will happen from time to time. But we wanted to deepen our discussion tonight about sexuality and spirituality. And Ryan did an excellent job. And my feedback, Ryan, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, was that people were so happy that you were able to be transparent and the freedom, folk that know you said, he looked freer than he was before. I said, he said, he know Jesus better now. Y'all be binding people up where they can't know Jesus because y'all in the way. Praise
In the
God.
way.
And it was just refreshing to hear that because that was the intent, to show people a certain side of people's lifestyle that they don't understand but are quick to judge.
Yes.
How you gonna judge something
mm,
that you don't know? We talked
mm,
about it this morning. Are you saved? Because there's a lot of people talking about God, but they don't know Him. And the thing that upsets me the most is that I spend 99.9% of my time by myself, and there are a lot of people out there that talk about me but have no clue who I am. But that's the culture. That's our culture, and that's our church culture, and it just spills over into each other. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Um, so we have the doctor here, and so we're gonna just jump in and go for it. One of the biggest things I think that people might want to know, Courtney said last week was helpful, encouraging. Let me find these here. We was finding everything else. Let me find the chat so we can see if we can get some comments up here. Um, just I think people don't understand how restricting it is in your personal life when you have to live, like I think Ryan was saying last night, live with everybody else's stigma. And I didn't get a chance to talk about the psychological impact that has on a person when, like Ryan was saying, his family was very open. They actually told him that he need to stop. um, and maybe if you could speak a little bit to that, like maybe the psychological impact that might have, or Ryan might want to say, what kind of frame of mind he was in all of those years. Or talk about that a little bit.
So I'll say this: I was in an inauthentic state. I was in this peekaboo state where people would see representatives of me, but you didn't see the true, authentic part of me. Because psychologically, you go through this space of you trying to, instead of, they say you rob Peter to pay Paul, you go through this space of trying to keep Peter and Paul and Thomas and all the disciples separate versus being the true self. And so psychologically, it wears on your mind because, you're trying to keep it, and for lack of better terms, you're trying to keep up with the lie.
Mm.
Who know this part of you, and, well, if they saw this part of you this place, or, you can't be completely yourself around this person. You gotta, all this code switching, that people use. You just psychologically, you don't find yourself present. You don't find yourself at peace. you find yourself in so much anxiety and you're triggered. And um, you really are not able to be whole. There's a split, the split personality or split selves, which I definitely see in the church so much because we're so busy trying to keep up the narrative that someone else has said about ourselves that we're not able to even know the narrative about ourselves or who we really are.
So, with, I think for so many people, the church is a big part of their life, or has been in the past. For getting upset and throwing in the towel. It's sometimes. Do you think that the church should have more of a responsibility to help people in their identity? That's either one of you can jump in on that. Or you
Doctor.
think that that's another
So,
thing that we're put pressure on the poor pastor to figure out? Because I think a
so,
lot of pastors just don't know what to do with it. When I talk to pastors, they don't know what to do with it, and so when you don't know what to do, you keep up the status quo. That's my takeaway. But help us
Yeah.
out here.
I'll speak to that. So, Walter Wink, um, he is a uh, scholar, psychologist type who talks to us about the fact that we all put on this persona of who we are to the public,
Mm,
but who we are to other people, nobody really knows. So it's not just about sexuality, it's about class, it's about race, it's about privilege. And so, we wear these masks of everything is great when I'm dealing with depression,
mm,
I'm dealing with anxiety, I'm dealing with other issues that I don't want anyone to know about.
mm-hmm,
So therefore, I put on a mask that everything's okay. I'm
mm,
just fine. I'm groovy. But when it comes to sexuality, we try to make like that's different when it's really the same. Everybody has a mask on.
mm,
Nobody tells you that they're in debt up to their eyeballs. Nobody tells you that they're in jeopardy of losing their home to foreclosure. So we wear these masks. So is the church a place that we can actually be transparent with who we really are? And do we want people to know just how jacked up our stuff is? And the answer is no. I don't want anybody to know that my life is jacked up, that my kids are cutting a fool, that my spouse is cheating, that my finances are freaking, I'm not gonna cuss because I do, but they're just jacked up too. I owe more than I make, and that I'm stressed out on every hand. I don't like my wife, I don't like my husband, I don't like my job, I don't like my kids, whatever it is. So we all put on these masks that make us seem like everything's groovy, everything's fine. So when it comes to sexuality, those of us who are same gender loving just fall into that whole bailiwick of putting on a mask to pretend that everything's okay. For those of us who believe that who the sun sets free is free indeed,
mm,
and this is one mask I don't have to wear.
mm,
I don't have to wear the mask of this is who I love, this is who loves me, and she and I, or for Ryan, he and I are doing just fine. I'm going to release the holes of society that put on me that I should hide.
Hmm.
Everybody hiding something.
well, since you put it that way.
The question is, what are you hiding? And then is it OPS, other people sin that you want to talk about? I don't believe that my same gender loving, been in a committed relationship and married for 16 years is something that I need to hide. But what are you hiding?
Because some people are married for 16 years and have, you know,
Booze and
booze
babes.
side pieces.
Come on now.
I'm annoyed
Tell-
because I ain't got no pieces. I'm just messing. So, to pull the shirt. Maybe I shouldn't pull my shirt up. I should be pulling it down. But
That's another segment, Pastor. That's another segment. That's
Right.
another segment.
so what you're saying, and I think maybe you can say yes or no to this. I think it has to do with we're highlighting the issues of the church, but a lot of this comes from people's homes. Like what happens in this house stays in this house. A whole lot of secrets. Listen. My mind can't take a whole bunch of secrets. Okay, so it's it's like when I deal with a person and they seem very guarded or very secretive, or I'm like, listen. I don't know what you got in your bag, but I need to see what's important that's in there,
Too
just
much
in
work.
case. I have to. And I just think that we're highlighting church, but it's a lot of it comes from unhealthy relationships at home, and we just perpetuate it carries over into the church world. And we didn't get to the Bible stuff of it yet, but I just think it's a whole bunch of stuff that's psychological. And I come from this train of thought that what we're preaching to every Sunday is really mindsets. And it's harder to take those mindsets apart the deeper they go. So if mama taught me that, you ain't fixing to tell me Annette Moore is wrong, honey. This is just not. And then you really ain't gonna tell me Sarah was wrong because Sarah taught Annette. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like these things become perpetually ingrained and we dig into them because they're gospel to us, even though they may not be the truth or the fact of the matter. Could you agree with me?
Yeah, I
I
like to
totally.
call it. Oh, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like to call it an inherited conversation.
Okay.
It's like I inherited my mother's this or my dad's that. Conversations are the same way.
Mm.
And so we inherit conversations and then we end up repeating the same things that we've heard. Not the stuff that we've seen or tested or proven to be not true.
Mhm.
Well,
And I want to say that there's this book that I read by Mark Woolen. It's called "It Didn't Start with You:
that
How
sounds
We
good.
Inherited Family Traumas That Shaped Who We Are and How to End the Cycle."
Mm.
And
Mm,
it talks about how that we inherit sometimes the traumas. It's just like, you know, as a black man, we're inheriting the trauma of, I'm inheriting the trauma of my great grandfather of the fear of being killed. That legacy. While in the church we talk about generational curses or blessings and the legacies, we inherit those traumas.
Mm.
And that trauma or that shame of, you know, so going back into my lineage, I've got some cousins and stuff that may be watching. I've got a great grandfather that had 35 kids.
Mm.
So in my lineage, we are fruitful,
My Lord.
so, and so,
Stay away from
um,
him.
and so that's just in our family thing. And so, being same gender loving is not, that ain't being fruitful. And so there's that shame of not having offspring and producing heirs. And so you can get caught up in that, what I'm saying, that whole trying to, well, it was good enough for my grandfather, and this is why they did it, and this is why they did it. And so I remember one of my sister and I were having a conversation. She shared with something that one of my aunts said to her that, the reason, you think about it, back in back in the day, in our grandparents or great grandparents' time frame, when they had all those kids, you were like, how did they have all those kids, and why, and how did they feed them all? But the reality go back into the more that they had, the family unit was not so much about the loving piece; it was about the accomplishing. That's more field hands, or that's a good buck. You know and so then that's that generational trauma that we're inheriting versus highlighting just the generational blessings.
Mm.
And again, I'll say this: it's not just we in the church we use it as generational curses, but what if I inherited, my great grandfather's anxiety or my grandfather's anxiety, or
mm,
you know, what do I do with that? Don't just tell me it's a curse. Tell me how to deal with it. and thrive, not just survive.
Mm, that's good. That's good. What do you say to people that? So, what side of it of the coin are you guys on? Are you born gay, or are you deciding to be gay? Which one?
Oof.
So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get in there.
Go ahead and
Okay,
get it.
Yeah,
so
please.
sexuality is fluid. The fact that you asked that question is creating a binary between one and the other.
Mm,
So sexuality is fluid. So I was married to a man at one time, and even though I was married to a man, I was going with my socialization. So there's a sociology of the way that we are raised. Uh, when a little girl hurts herself, mommy comes and she rubs the boo boo and says, "Oh, baby, you're gonna be okay. Just be okay." But a little boy who has the same injury, you'll say, "Toughen up. You're gonna
don't
be
cry.
okay. So
Yeah.
don't cry." And so, part of is it biology or environment? I believe that this is who God created me to be.
Okay.
You know, I was 8 when I recognized I was attracted to women
Mm,
or to little girls at the time because I was a little girl.
mm-hmm,
And I'm not sure if everybody is the same and they don't need to be.
mm,
Part of it is that what Western thought teaches us to do is to put people in a box that we can understand,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? So is it this or that? That's Western.
Got you.
And my boy or girl is Western. You know, we all know that there are exceptions, but we don't want to deal with the gray area. We only want to deal with either this or that, black or white. And
Mm.
so I believe I was born a loving person and that I am most attracted to a person who is the same gender as me, and I was married to a dude, and I recognized that that was because I was socialized to look for a dude. But my inclination was, no, not so much.
Got you.
That's me.
Got you.
So,
So you think because Ryan had the same testimony. He was
yeah, yeah.
like, he was like, he's funny. I was watching another video with him, and so you think the same thing, Ryan? It's like a socialization, or was it more the pressures of this is who I want to be in church, and this is what the expectation is of me.
So it's both, and I believe I would say that it's a choice because you can I know people that make the choice to say, okay, I will choose to live free in who I really want to be, or I choose to live in the world of a mask and what people think I should be. And
Okay.
um, so I think we were born with the choice, and so um, I go back to the whole thought of when people you make the choice to you make the choice to be who you are. You make the choice to show up who you choose to be in the world, and and so I think for me, and it was Doctor Watkins, Barbara Watkins, that was that inspiration for me. Um, we talked about my divorce last time, where the mom was going through divorce, and I sat in her office, and she looked at me. She says, and she said it so just like hurtful to me in my mind. Tell yourself another story. Tell myself another story. You're the
This is the
pastor.
only story I got.
This is this, and after realizing that and realizing telling myself another story, which is showing up and making a choice
Mm,
to realize that while whatever did happen to me, I don't have to be a victim of that. I have to make a choice. This is who I am. This is what I'll show up as. Because I hear oftentimes people say, well, I was raped or molested, or somebody mishandled me or sexually touched me, and that could have been you know, I wholeheartedly empathize and agree and understand that. In the same token, when you can't. I choose not. I don't say you can't. I choose not because it happened to me. I choose not to allow who mishandled me sexually to be a part of my choice of how I show up anymore in the world. I used to
Okay.
because that's what was cloaked me in shame, and my fear of being who I am today and my inauthentic self was because they did that to me, and that's why I'm broken, and I gotta hide this part of me. Versus they did that, it happened, but I choose to show up this way, and
So you
that's
didn't. So she didn't allow you to use it as a crutch anymore. She's like,
yeah.
if you gonna walk, you gonna take up your bed and walk, or you gonna carry this bed around forever.
Yes, and
Oh,
there
okay.
were many, times, and I'm gonna just harp on that for Dr. Watkins for a moment. Many times where I wanted her to be that maternal nature to kind of like, oh, boo boo, but she just kind of was like, take up your bed, tell yourself
Right.
another story. She let me have my moments, but she go, okay, now tell yourself another story. And telling yourself another story is not telling yourself a lie,
Mm,
but it's repositioning how you see that situation happen to yourself, and repositioning how again you show up. Yes, it happened, but how do you show up?
gotcha. Gotcha.
And
Dr.
I want to
Watkins.
just add to that
Yes,
that our sexual trauma, which is what that is usually comes out of a place of non allowing. We had no say in the matter. We had no agreement around it. Does not um, feed into our sexuality.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I, I'm gonna tell you, as a committed person in a same gender loving relationship, it would have been so much easier for me to choose to be straight
mm,
and have a great husband and a great set of kids and all that kind of stuff. That would have been so much easier for me.
mm.
But my inclination, my orientation was that I am most attracted to people of the same gender. And I didn't choose that.
Got you.
I have friends who are straight. They've been my friends forever. They could never see themselves in the same gender loving relationship. And that's just who they are. And I love them for who they are. For me, I'm like, I tried to be in the same in a heterosexual relationship. And I'm like, but that's not who I am. So is it nature, nurture? That's a God question. And it's not up to me to try to figure out.
So can I ask you something, doctor? Um, so so you were married to a man,
Hmm.
and so was it after then you came out, or you came out to how did that happen?
No, no, no. My journey began before that.
Okay.
I was
I
trying
thought
to
you married
assimilate.
a man and said, "Oh, heck no,
No,
this is not
I
it."
I was I
Okay.
was trying to assimilate into what culture said.
Okay.
This is what a woman needs to do.
Okay.
I mean, just like we're socialized to cook with and take care of the kids
Mm-hmm.
and manage the household.
Yes.
Where my gifts might be in yard work and putting things together and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, I mean, my own mother was the handy woman around the house.
Okay.
She did the hedges. She washed the cars.
Mm,
That's because she was good at it. She was a seamstress.
mm,
She had an attention to detail.
mm,
So she was not your typical. I mean, she cooked, she cleaned, she did all those things, but her natural propensity was outside the house
mm.
and inside the house. So in relationships, you do where your gifting is.
Right.
We do we do a disservice to people by trying to put them into a rubric of this is what men do, this is what women do. I mean, when I was a pastor at Siegel Avenue, our church administrator was a much better decorator than I was. I'm like, black and white. And he was like,
I
no,
know.
Pastor,
I know.
we're gonna ask for pizzazz. Because that was his gift. So even in relationships, you you exercise the gift that you've been given. And that's not gender based.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's not whether you're straight or gay. It's about where's your gifting. So we do a whole lot of disservice to men and women being in relationships, whether it's same gender loving or not, as to what's your gifting? What do you do
Mhm.
well? Because we're trying to fit inside this itty bitty teeny tiny box that society has given us.
Yeah, that seems to be the major problem. That no one is free to be who they are. Period. It don't even have nothing to do with sexuality. You just have to be. We all, we have our hair a certain way because we want to normalize. Men cut their hair and beards. You certain color clothes. You don't want to be too loud or too flashy. It just seems like that's a overarching issue.
And I think we attach ourselves, or we're taught to attach ourselves to this fantasy, you know, especially boys. Boys stay outside. They run, they rough, and they roughhouse. And just like women or girls are taught to think about their wedding day. Boys are taught to think about, you know, being the man of the house and having babies, and being the breadwinner, and and it reads into the same gender loving lifestyle, because you know we go into relationships with these attached expectations. Well, this is what you're supposed to do. You know, um, most some people think, oh well, you're bald headed, so you're supposed to, you know, do this, or you're attached to this expectation or fantasy in your head, or people's fantasies, and it's not your reality. Like you just said a few moments ago, doctor, that your mother was attention to detail, so she cleaned the car better, and or she washed the car better, but that didn't take away from her identity.
Mm.
And I think that's where, when we talk about sexuality and spirituality, we try to merge all that into one, and then we include our sexual traumas,
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
which we don't separate. My identity, my spirituality, and my sexual traumas, they make up who I am, but they all should be dealt with differently.
Yes.
So what do you say? Okay, let's go for it. What do you say for somebody that's watching us saying this is a bag of bull? Y'all going to hell? Come on, doctor. Come on, straighten us out. You're going to hell.
So
And
you're going to hell if
gasoline shorts.
you're going to hell if you eat shrimp. You're going to hell if you eat any type of shellfish. You're going to hell if you're a man and you cut your sideburns based on Leviticus uh, above the ear, right here. You're going to hell if you wear cotton and wool. I mean, look at the
So
Leviticus
if you
codes.
wear a wife beater under your suit, you.
You're going to hell.
Oh, I couldn't pass that by. I'm sorry. I'm the shenanigans.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
No, no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no. That's exactly. I set it up for you. That's the law, right? That's the law. Yeah. So you're going to hell for all those things.
Mm.
So maybe you need to look at, what does God say is loving?
Ah.
I believe, and I'm Presbyterian. My theology is called Reformed theology.
Mm.
Reformed, always reforming. And so that's John Calvin, that's Martin Luther, that's the early church fathers, not mothers, but fathers. And I want to point that out. Uh, the church fathers said that I shouldn't be preaching, or you as well.
That's right.
Okay, so if you eat pork, you're going to hell.
Oh God. I'm
Like,
sorry.
right? Yeah, that pork
Not the
chop, that
not the
bacon,
pork
that
chop,
sausage,
Jesus.
you're going to hell.
Oh
So
glory.
we don't get to pick and choose about heaven and hell, and we're not the determining factor either. You know, we don't have a hell or a heaven to send people to. That's God's business,
Mm.
and maybe we need to stay out of God's business. But God is love. Corinthians chapter 1, verse 13, talks about what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. It tells you what love is not, it tells you what love is. And if you're aligning yourself with what love is, then you'll see a loving relationship, whether it be between two men, two women, or a man and a woman, or two loving entities, two loving people, and saying, if it's love, then love conquers all. So I'm gonna call bullshit on their bullshit. Say
I,
shit, but
I,
I
I'm
do
supposed
it.
to be listen.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
she
just
no,
she
switched.
no,
became
no, no.
shenanigans. She became shenanigans
I became
That's the shenanigans. That's all right.
and
Courtney
information.
said that's right. Stay out of God's business. Um,
And,
stay out of God's business. Yes.
and that's my belief is that you know you hear you say that to somebody. Somebody can say that to you that you're afraid to go to hell, and I make this rebuttal. You're quick to say you're gonna die one way or another. I'm gonna die from something, you know, and so that just having that brazen attitude, I'm gonna die from something. For me, it's no different when someone says that you're gonna go to hell in a handbasket. Okay, who has gone to hell or heaven and came back and said this is what gets you in, what gets you out?
mm,
I have not met a person. I don't know of a person. I would love to meet that person, or even read a book or talk to that person. Not saying that I'm my thinking or this is a theology, but the freedom for me is just that. And I go back to this thing. I realized, prior to, but just this week, with the officer that the military officer that was pepper sprayed, that video, um, and just all of that stuff, like all that, my traumas just hit me really hard this week. That I could die any moment. I could die driving to the stop sign. I could die at the Walmart. When the boy was walking across the street and the neighbor, uh, you know, uh, attacked, physically attacked him. I make a choice to live my life to the fullest in love and joy, because he's Jesus said, "I come that you may have life and life more abundantly." And so, my choice is I want to live and live more abundantly, and um, not that I don't believe in heaven or hell. I just don't want to live my life in fear of either or. But I'm gonna live it the best, honest way I know how.
so, what do you say to people that see? Because we have a culture that seems to like to out people or put their business out in the street. I call it because I don't because me personally, I'm just like, it's your personal thing, and
Perfect.
the only way I'm worried about who you sleeping with is if I want to turn. But go on and help us out, doctor. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Folk is
So I'm
overly
gonna go.
interested in who I'm sleeping with. I'm like, you ain't even asked me out. You should have asked me out.
So I'm gonna go with scripture on this one.
Okay.
Nope.
And um, the the prodigal son, who everybody knows that text. Everybody knows what the Gospels say about the prodigal. And once again, you have the Western versus the Eastern, or the white versus the black, however you want to put it. The prodigal came to himself.
Mm,
So what we find is that in the Western culture, in white culture, people want to out you or tell your business, the business that ain't theirs to tell. The prodigal came to himself, right? He had he had a reconciling of who he was. He came back to his parents, to his father, to his mother, and said, I have been out there and I recognize that life ain't for me. I
mm,
want to come back home.
mm,
So when we're talking about LGBTQ siblings, we're talking about it's yours to tell. You got to come to yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody else's business to tell your business. Just like we don't tell, um, your intimate and most most sacred things about yourself, it's not yours to tell. We have to come to ourselves. And when we come to ourselves, then it's up to us to say, my business, my story, my song.
And so, since both of you have been married, what do you say to people who might be uh, feeling like this ain't it? This is not. You know, do you say uh, stay, or do you say run, or do you say what do you say?
What's not it? What do you mean? The marriage?
Yeah, because we have. Okay, let me just go all the way there. Because in church, we got a lot of cover people, cover, you know,
Oh,
cover
got you.
girls, cover boys, cover
Mm-hmm,
covers.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is this is just me. I'm a pastor and I'm single. Praise the Lord. And I don't know if I care that much what the people say or going to think, because they going to think what they going to think. I don't know if I care that much. I think that if I was in a marriage that I was just like, this ain't it, I would just come talk to my congregation. Listen, if y'all want me, I'll stay. If you don't, I don't, because it's like, I'm definitely not. This is what I'm not. I'm not going to be unhappy so you can be happy. Because up until the day I say this is what I'm doing, I was praying for you, prophesying over you, knocking you down, picking you up, and coming to jail with your little bad sons and daughters. So, and I tell them all the time, if I can come get you out of all kinds of stuff, you better come get me. Don't leave me out there by myself. So what do you guys say to that? Like, run, stay, you know.
I would say this: living your truth, and living your truth is being happy, because you hear about the stories of, it was my mind, my frame, and I was attached to that theology or that thought process. You know, grandma and granddaddy was married for 50 some years and they stuck it out. But do we know they were happy? Because all the
Mhm.
story we say is they were married for that long of a time and they stuck it out.
I don't think people cared if they was married. I mean, happy. That's the sad part. Nobody
But
cared. The kids
and
didn't
that's the
care.
thing.
The spouses didn't care if each other was happy. Nobody cared. We're in a generation now where it's like, nah, I need to be happy. No, I need to be. No, listen, I'm not gonna put up with you. Listen, no.
And that's the reality that, you know, reality is, it's a choice. And do you choose to keep allowing yourself not to be happy and being tolerated or celebrated?
That's
Because if you let go of the attachment of being tolerated in love and embrace the ideology that you,
you preaching. Wait, tolerated in love. Come
yes,
on here.
because toleration in love is trauma abuse. You're trauma bonding. You know, it's like I'm so used to, you know, you slapping me around because you love me,
Thank you, Jesus.
versus
Hallelujah. Glory to God.
celebrating love. Love should be celebrated. Love
My
is
God.
all those things. It bears no record. It's, you know, all the things that Paul talks about what love is. If that's not what you're experiencing, especially when you make that commitment to God on that wedding day, you know, if you're not experiencing that for rich or that poor, and that sickness and health, and bear no record and forgives and all those wonderful things, then it's a lie. And you continue to choose that? Because what set me free was, somebody said there's 330 million people in the US.
So I have a chance, is what you're saying.
I'm looking at 1,300. So I may need to, like what the disciple said, cast your net to the other side,
That's
or
good.
move my boat somewhere, expand my thought process, and stop accepting this toleration.
Tammy Brunson
Mm.
says granddad has 6 kids with other women, not his wife, but she stayed. And she said, nope. And that's true. That is so true. And I think what Doctor was saying, that this is a Western idea, that you're going to sit here and tolerate it. And I had, listen, this is what's funny to me. I had a friend that was chasing all of the single preachers around, pastors. And
Oh
I said
God.
to her one day, I said, so what you're saying to me is you don't have no power of your own, because I am the powerful one. They need to be chasing me. What's happening here? I'm the table. What?
Listen,
What's
listen, Pastor
happening?
T. You know, my parents were married for 53 years
Wow.
before my mother passed away. My grandparents were married 68 years
Mm,
before my grandfather passed away.
Wow.
The the inherited conversation,
Mm.
right?
mm,
Of you stick and stay no matter what,
Oh Lord.
right? Is not that's not 21st century
I
belief
no.
because we don't have arranged marriages. My grandmother was married at 15 because there was a suitor who came along and said, I can take care of your daughter. And so therefore she was betrothed to my grandfather. My parents were different in that my mother was a working woman, she was a teacher, she was college educated, and she made a choice to
Mm.
marry my dad. But she also fell into a system
Mm.
that said, this is how women act, and this is how men act.
Right.
And so I think nowadays we need to reevaluate marriage codes because you can't apply what was in biblical days to what's happening right now.
That's true.
Because in the Bible, women were property,
That's
they
true.
were subject to the man. She had no rights. It was a very patriarchal, male dominated society. So don't apply the mores of biblical times to a 21st century woman who goes to college, who gets a job, who has her own, who has the ability, who always has had the ability, the capabilities, but now the permission to think. So you got a different set of issues. So don't take biblical standards and mores. Well, the church says you got to do this right here, and women keep silent in the church. What that's bull pucket. That the reason why you got to
Wait,
tell
what
women,
organization you in? Cause y'all cuss more over there. I need to come to that one.
this is me. This is almost history
I'm
that
just messing
says
with you.
this is me
I got
saying
to
that
give up
I'm
this
free.
Pentecostal lifestyle around
Who
here.
the Son
Listen.
sets free is free indeed. Like, right?
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So I'm like, why are you limiting people if they haven't already had a voice? That's
mm,
exegesis.
Right.
So when Paul says women keep silent in church, why are you telling people to be quiet if they haven't already been given permission to
To
speak?
speak. Right.
So, that's just some faulty biblical stuff that you can deal with on another hand, Pastor, because that's your job. What I'm saying is, I got the right to speak because, truth be told, I'm going to go ahead and say it because I'm free.
Go ahead.
If the women were to shut down their service and shut down their wallets, the church would die.
mm.
Listen.
Who was the first? Who did Jesus reveal himself to on Resurrection Day? It wasn't the
A woman.
scared ass.
A woman. A woman.
It wasn't the men.
That's true. They was too busy hiding before the
If it
crucifixion.
wasn't for the women.
Yes.
And so in our church structures, when you're telling the women to be submissive and to be silent, if you're telling a woman to be silent in the marriage and to be submissive to a husband based on the household codes and first and second Peter, no, 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 no. It says, as he is submissive to Christ. So we don't even want to read the scriptures correctly. What I'm saying is, God made male and female, created he them, if you want to go with the King James Version, both and, right? To have dominion, both and. And so when we start creating these hierarchies, we start getting into a lot of trouble, which is where sexuality comes into place. And so if you if you are a gay man and you exhibit any feminine characteristics, that's what's problematic. Like if you are a robust, bodybuilding, strong, masculine presenting gay man, nobody has a problem with you. But it's when you start presenting as feminine or soft, society has these negative connotations of you. When science says there's there's one chromosomal difference between men and women, one chromosome, not 12, not 14, not 25. So we are both male and female. What determines our gender is one chromosome. So that lets us know that we're equal. We are the same. And so I mean it just gets really wonky because the issue is not sexuality, it's if you're presenting as more feminine because the world hates women because we've been
And,
socialized away.
and I want to just say this. So we're taught to we all have a feminine side and a masculine side because, like you said, there are some women, they can put on their lipstick, they can put on their 6-inch high heels, they can do everything um, as feminine as they want to, but then they have a masculine part of them, whereas they
Yeah,
can
because
change
I will
oil.
slap the taste out your mouth.
Because just as quick as Pastor T can wear a fur, like she is the same woman that will be like, now I will slap the taste out your mouth, and I will, and so
Yes.
it's it's that mindset. I don't say theology, but that thought process that we subscribe to, because I can think about some very masculine men, and Pastor T, this is where we're gonna go. I'm sorry, I'm segueing. We're gonna say this,
It's all
but
right.
there's some very masculine men that want to be princesses.
And they are
They're
on
in,
their own
they're
time
in
when
the
we're not
gym.
looking.
They're in the gym every day,
Yeah.
and bodybuilding, and you peek behind that curtain, and they princess. I mean, you
And the
know,
frog.
they want to be treated like Queen Elizabeth.
I
And
understand.
so,
Yeah.
you know, it's not. And what the point I'm making is that you've got to own that. You got to own that I have my preferences. It's just back in the day when I was a kid. Back in the day, straight men didn't have no other. They only had black or brown suits,
It was
maybe gray
terrible. I'm so glad y'all have
or
evolved.
blue
It was terrible.
or blue. But being only one, and then there's that thing of metrosexual that came out,
Mhm.
you know, but it's always been there. There's there's that feminine part, and I'm not saying go and be a feminine, put on dresses, whatever, but whatever, just like embrace that and allow yourself safe space to be that and be okay with that,
Oh,
because you know it's a choice. Again, it goes back to a choice. And in a marriage, and whatever your decision is for your marriage, whether it be with the monkey, whether it be with,
not a monkey.
well, a human, whatever human you decide to marry. Let me just put it that way. Whatever human you decide to marry, you make up the role, you define what that marriage looks like. And if that marriage is based upon you taking care of my needs or my children, or you being a sugar baby and I being a sugar daddy, if we have that understanding, then that's what we got an understanding about. But don't go into it with your expectation, they're going to take care of me, and they don't know that they're going to take care of you,
That's
or
true.
that it's going to be an equal partnership, and they saying, no, I'm looking to be rescued, or you know what I'm saying? Like, get all that out. And my last point, if I don't say nothing else about marriage, you got to marry somebody that likes all of you,
Mm.
likes all of you, and you like all of them. Because when you marry somebody that just wants you or puts up, going back to that toleration,
Tolerate. Mm-hmm.
you'll find yourself, like you said, do I stay or do I go?
So I have Leslie here, going back to what we were talking about earlier. She says women have been holding the church down from day one and still now. And then she turned around and said, I'm heterosexual and have been celibate for 20 years, but my style is not feminine. And the whispers have been going for decades, and it's nobody's business. I feel like this, Leslie. If they whispering, they must want to turn. Okay?
Ask him.
Because that's the only time.
Ask him what they trying to do.
That's a, you should have asked me out for coffee. That's what you should have done.
Right.
So your whispers are none of my business.
You
You know, and I find that in church, it don't matter if they straight or not. People are always whispering about something.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to get saved. They should have been at church today. I had an altar call for salvation. Because it's just really, and for people that are struggling with their sexuality, it just adds some pressure that they don't need. Because people won't shut up, excuse me, Lord, but they won't be quiet and let folk deal with their own stuff, work out their own soul salvation, work out their own stuff, you know. And if they're having any sort of internal issues, you're exacerbating that by putting, gasoline on something that they ain't ready to deal with yet. And it's causing more internal anguish. It's causing more. And I find that people do this most talking. When they come for me, the most time they talking because they can't whoop me no other way.
Pastor, let me tell you.
when they see that the shenanigans is just my own entertainment and that I actually have a brain, they start to struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, most people are not willing to deal with their own ish.
Help us preach.
They're not, and so therefore they gotta look at other people's ish
Mm-hmm.
and try to make something of it,
Yes.
to make it stink,
Mm-hmm.
to make it something that they can
Try to
make
level
lesser
that
than
playing field
themselves.
because they can't whoop you, doctor. They got to level it out with some gossip trying
Exactly.
to
And
dethrone you.
so we all have this conquerist mentality.
Yeah.
So that's them, and I'm better than that.
Come on.
And so therefore, but if you struggling with your finances, I'm going to talk about how good I am in mine. If you're struggling with how you raise your kids, I'm going to talk about how great my kids are.
Come
And so I
on.
got to make somebody else's ish
You got to fan the flame.
lesser than mine.
Yes.
And that goes across the gamut
Mm.
because I need to feel better about me. So in order to feel better about me, I got to put you down. And
And
so, yeah,
that's a
go ahead.
part of avoiding who you are and not dealing with your ish.
Ah.
Because if I had more time to deal with my ish and deal with, my problems and my bit, if what they say, mind the business that pays. If I spent my time minding the business that pays me,
That's a good word.
I don't have time to mind your business.
That's true.
But because I have this coping mechanism thing, I have an avoid attachment syndrome, whatever. So sometimes I'll find myself, I need to be doing this, but my avoidance is like, well, I'm gonna go play over here, versus handle my responsibilities.
Right.
And that's what happens. You're so busy trying to gotcha somebody else,
Right.
gotcha yourself,
Right.
and that's where you have to be present and and take a reality check of, the moment I get to thinking about what somebody else is doing too much, I have to say, well, what am I not doing?
That's true. That's true.
What do I need to be focusing on? Because if I got energy to sit up here and start breaking down your issues and talking about your stuff, that means that I got some stuff that I need to go back over here and
Right.
some stuff under the rug, some relationships, some parts of me I need to deal with. And all it is that, I'm learning even with the jealousy bit and the people that, like you said earlier, that are making these whispers, they're really trying to figure out how you do it.
Mm.
Because I've had a lot of
Mhm.
people say to me, Ron, you look so calm and cool. And I'm like, babe, I take so many anxiety medicines and
Mm.
I mean so many bells and heads. I just look calm on the outside, but on the inside, I am like, whoo,
I'm
like,
that way too. I'm that
mayday,
way too.
mayday.
I'm like, I'm
But
glad I'm making it look easy because
it's not that easy.
I'm having a mental breakdown inside.
Right, 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 right. Yeah.
But why are you so worried about how I'm handling traffic or how I'm
Mm.
handling, versus how are you handling?
Mm. I
How are
think
you
everybody
doing?
need a therapist myself, but I just
And your
That's
pastor
the
is not
truth.
your therapist. I'll just
yeah.
throw that out there.
Or two, depending on how much issues you got. Can you have two therapists? I don't know, because sometimes I think I need two for two different, just a whole bunch of stuff going on. So let me ask you this: uh, dating, and I know the Reverend says she's been married forever, but if you could just remember the time, like Michael Jackson says.
Do you remember? Okay, yeah, yeah,
Come on here.
that's
Um,
right.
so I'm so in dating, do you prefer that you reach out to the person that you're interested in, or are you the person that is, oh, they came for me? All right, praise God. I get a little annoyed when people don't know if I'm single or not, and they come after me, and I'm like, but you didn't even ask me if I was single. That's rude to me. But I don't know. I might just be. Yeah. Amy said therapy is good. I feel like we all need it, and I agree. Yeah.
I'm gonna let
You gonna let
Ryan
Ryan go?
respond.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in no
And
trouble, Pastor.
no, yes,
Just blink at
yes,
us.
yes.
I knew you were going to say that. So for me, dating apps, I'm in this crux. Um, I'm realizing in I chose other people, but I didn't choose myself first.
Say that again. Say it again.
I chose other people, but I didn't choose myself first.
Okay.
I
Mm.
wanted them to choose me.
Okay.
And the point I'm making is the more I begin to choose myself, the more I begin to realize the people that's supposed to be in my space should be there.
Okay.
So I'll bring that home in the sense of I'm no longer looking for somebody to just tolerate me. You know, oh, they want me. No. Do you really like me? You don't know how you like me if you don't know me. You don't know me if you don't know if I'm single or not.
Well, yeah, that's a problem for me
So
because
if
that
you
goes
don't,
back to the whispers. You're hanging with people that think they know me. I had to tell somebody that you don't know me, sweetie. Back up.
right,
Um, because they just assume certain things because you ain't all out there. And
you 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 like the image of me. You like the image of
that's it.
T is talk
That's
Pastor
it.
T because she can sing.
Yeah.
She got a church. You like the image of Doctor because she got a doctorate degree. You like the image of you want a bald headed man, but you
Right.
don't know what it takes for me to shave my head. You don't know, and get to know that. Get to know me before you say you want me, and
Right.
like me before you want me, and
Right.
that's the space. Because I used to be the other way.
Got
Want me, then like me.
you. Got you. Got
Got it.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's I don't tell I'm not telling anybody else how to choose or what to do, but just that's what I subscribe to. I'd rather a person that starts liking me a lot off top and you don't even know me. I snore. I snore loud.
you.
What you gonna do?
Let's see
You
how
know,
much you love when you can't sleep.
right? So you gonna like me in my sleep? And it's okay. Before we start getting these emotions and feelings involved and wantons, like, can you deal with this knowing?
Right.
Can you like me the fact that, the parts of me that, it's a whole process and procedure when I shave. This just go back to the whole bald head thing. Can,
Are
can
you
you
gonna
like
like all this hair on the sink if before I come clean it up? What if I'm in a rush? Are you gonna be mad? Okay. Yeah. And
yeah.
I understand that because it's like people see the animated me, but I had a roommate one time. She wanted to jump off a bridge because I could be deathly silent. I could be deathly silent, and she just could not understand. She was one of those people that silence made her crazy. So
Mm.
even it's like you've been in here all day. What you doing? The same thing I was doing 10 minutes ago, being quiet. Hmm.
Why you don't want to? I don't want to talk to
You
you.
want to watch a movie? Not necessarily. You want to go to the mall? I sure don't want to go there. Because I mean, and I blame that on the 17 years of being an only child. I can be deathly quiet, and unanimated. So when you see this hyper Tarolyn, I have to tell my friends sometimes when they call, "Girl, what you doing?" I'm not. I'm tired, so I'm not. I'm not animated at all. What you need? And I'm very short. So she was like, "You're bipolar." I'm like, "I'm not." But like Ryan is saying, you have to be able to get both sides of that. It don't mean that I hate you inside. It just means that I'm in a quiet. That's
And respect my quiet place. Don't think something wrong with me, or I'm crazy, or I'm bipolar, or you did something.
How about go get you a therapist because you can't handle quiet? How about go get you a
Mm.
therapist because you can't be by yourself? Okay? All right. And leave me
Because you
alone.
don't
Praise the
know
Lord.
if I tell people sometimes, and I'm gonna shut up. I've said this. You don't know what I'm telling myself or what demons or anxieties I'm dealing with. So that's why I ain't talking to you because I'm trying to you know, it's
Balance
it's
this
not about you.
crazy out. I'm talking to these spirits in my mind.
As Tyler Perry would say, I'm talking to the 47 people in my head, all 47 of me or whatever. I'm trying to get them calm, and now you want me to talk to you.
Please, Lord Jesus.
So I'm gonna go ahead and interject as a married person,
Yes.
um,
Thank
and
you.
and and an only child. I'm gonna
Okay.
put that
Okay.
out.
Okay.
I mean, I was raised. I don't have any siblings.
Okay.
Um, is that when you start looking for a mate and you're looking for a mate, there's a clarity that you have that you're not gonna accept anything that is less than somebody who wants a mate. Like, right?
Okay.
Like if you want to hit them, quit them, boom boom pow kind of person, then that's not me.
Right.
Mhm.
So when I met my now wife in 2005, I had been in this game a long time, and I knew that I wasn't looking for a girlfriend or a hit 'em, quit 'em, or
Mm-hmm.
a boom boom pow. I was looking for somebody I could build a life with,
Okay.
which means that I then give off that energy that says, I'm going to get to know you. And no matter what you present to me, whether you're a snorer, whether you have anxiety, depression, whether you have any other issues, the love that I have for you is going to cover that. So, right? So, I had to make up in my mind that that's the kind of person that I'm looking for because people come to you like a used car, as is no warranty.
My God.
And is
Jesus.
my love enough to cover all of those things that you would otherwise reject? And so, as an individual, I think that you have to come to that decision that I'm looking for a mate, I'm looking for a long term relationship, which means I'm going to take the necessary steps to be able to deal with, learn about them, get to know them, and any other surprises. I mean, I get surprises now, and I've been with my now wife for 16 years. I'm like,
Mm?
is that what we're doing now? Okay, okay. I'm like, I didn't know. I didn't realize you did that.
Uh,
Is that right?
right.
But my love is expansive enough to cover it.
Mm.
So that's a mindset that my wife and we will never get a divorce because we took divorce off the table.
Mm.
That's like that. No, that's not an option. One time I was like, "Well, I'll just leave." She said, "Where are we going?"
That sounds like
Like,
me. That sounds
like
like me.
what? I said, "I'm going." She
No,
said, "Where are
no,
we going?"
no, no.
Because
Mm-hmm.
where you go, I go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because
No.
that was a decision. That was a choice. That was a mindset. So when you're talking about relationships, part of it is, I mean, again, I come from a legacy of people stay together.
Mm.
You ain't going nowhere. Where we
Mm-hmm.
going?
Right.
I don't care how jacked up it is. Where we going?
Right.
And so when you make your mind up that you are the person and this is the thing we're going to be in, to till death do us part.
Right.
So but you got to find those attributes, those traits in that person, male, female, no matter what, that make you say, okay, where we going?
Mm. And that's for any sex, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
When the ladies
Yeah.
come to me, they mad at their husbands. Oh, he going on the couch. I said, oh no, I don't play that. I don't know. No, no, ain't no couch.
Right, 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 right.
I
No.
tried. Let me tell you, I tried to leave the bed. I was mad at my wife one night, and I got the pillow,
Oh.
and I got to the door, and I said, "Oh hell no! I ain't going to the other bed." And the other bedroom, the mattress on that bed is actually better than ours. I was like, I got back in the bed. I'm like, good.
That invisible line, right? That invisible line.
And the next morning, it was like, good morning,
Mm.
kiss you, because no matter what we dealt with last night,
Right.
it ain't as important as today.
Right.
Today is a new day. Yeah.
That's good stuff right there. That's good stuff right there. I think all people needed to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Um.
can't remember any argument that I've gotten in 16 years that needed to be remembered
Mm.
to the
Mm.
point where I can go back to it and say, "Well, remember that time when you, no, 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 no." You know what? As far as the east is from the west,
Mm.
the Bible tells us. And so I'm like, I got mad at you, but I don't remember what it was about.
Right.
That's where I
Because
am.
love bears no record.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you have an affirming church, right?
When I was pastoring, I did, yes.
Can you explain what that is?
So an affirming church is as a Negro spiritual, the spiritual say when all God's children get together, all of God's children. John 3:16 determines who all of God's children are. For God so loved the world that God gave God's only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in God, Jesus, okay? So that's who we are. That's who we were. That's who we are. That's who we embrace. So if you can say, I believe, I'm not in a place to judge your belief. Do you believe that God so loved the world? Yes. That God sent God's only begotten Son? Yes. And we're believing in that same God shall inherit eternal life? Then yes. So an affirming church says, I stand for, not against, those who embrace for God to love the world. A whosoever church. I mean, what scripture can you say that stands against John 3:16?
Okay. Okay. Uh.
So I have to say, I I've been a member of your church, so I never would have categorized it as affirming
Mm.
because it's it was inclusive, and I believe, and I think that word scares a lot of people
Okay.
when you say inclusive because they just automatically think hellfire and brimstone. But when I think of inclusive, I think, you know, nobody's left out. Everybody's a part of that John 3:16. Because, there's not a fat church. There's not a the Bible don't talk about a fat church, a white church, a gay church, a straight church, a brown church. We society does that, but you know, I think it was someone that said it best. Sundays is the most segregated day in America
Mhm.
because everybody makes the choice to go to their black church or white church, And for me, it's about feeling love and being safe to be loved for who I am and who I am and who I show up to be
So
in the space and capacity.
has either one of you lost friends or family members in the come out process? Or
Oh
has it?
yeah.
Okay.
When I was a campus minister, I never will forget. I had a friend. She was the campus psychologist in the Career and Counseling Center,
Okay.
and we had been hanging for a long time. And then I decided to share with her that I'm same gender loving, that I'm a lesbian woman, and that thing. I mean, she just like she got all wonky with the relationship. I'm like, well,
I
a
love
number
the
one,
truth.
I don't want you.
I was gonna say, do you think that when people see when you say that to someone, they think, oh, they gotta want me?
See, that's a lie from the pits of hell. You ain't attractive to everybody. Same gender loving. If I had wanted you, you would have known that too.
Ah,
Mhm.
So right, so a lot of people think that well, they gonna come on to me, especially in on the male side. You know, everybody ain't your type, and every same gender loving person you don't necessarily want them. Like we good being friends, and we can sleep in the same bed, butt naked and greasy. It ain't make a difference because I,
I think I just fainted.
I'm just saying, I'm 57 years old, and I'm just telling you, like I'm hoping that this whoever see it, they know my truth. Listen,
Yes, yes.
I'm listen. I don't. No. Mm,
You're like,
I
I
no,
don't.
gotta like you. I gotta like you first. You gotta like me back.
I
right?
gotta be
That's
attracted to you.
But I think this
Period.
is what I was saying to Ryan last week. There's this idea that when you say I'm gay, that you're swinging from the chandeliers every time you get home. You just sexing and naked and running around like you don't have nothing else to do with your life. Like when
and
you
trying to
say
put your
I'm
gay.
gay, people have these Studio 54 music starts playing in their mind. So I had to. I said, Ryan, could you explain this to people? So once you decide you're gay, it's like, oh, you. The reason why I think people struggle with the gay and saved thing is because how you going to be saved when they have that narrative of that Studio 54 playing? They see that disco ball, you know.
Hmm.
Just, that's just that. I think that's the struggle because they cannot reconcile the two.
There
They're
are
not
so
trying to
many
put that gay
struggles.
on everybody. I'm not trying to share my gay. I never get someone to me.
I need to
I
get some
accept you.
water. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Somebody said to me, I accept you gay. I just don't want you to put your gay on me.
Right.
Put your gay on you? Like, and again, going back to that point of view that there are some people that are gay that is, I mean, I know some people that are gay. It's like, I ain't had sex. Well, how do you know you gay?
Listen, I know
You
somebody
know,
right now that he swear he gay, and I'm like, he ain't never had a boyfriend. How you gonna be gay? You ain't never had a boyfriend.
so, but it's
I see you
that
keep trying to push up on people, but I ain't never
right,
seen you had a lasting relationship. So
right.
listen, I don't know. I don't know.
But it's that narrative, and that again, that whole narrative of what you frame your thought process of what that looks like. Because I'll never forget. I think one of my sisters told me when she told my biological father, she says, he ain't the kind of gay you used to, or we think about,
Mm.
we see on TV. And that whole perception or persona of what what does gay look like? Like, you don't look gay. I've had people tell me on something, you don't look gay. What does gay look like?
I
Like,
keep telling you that narrative in their mind. They think RuPaul, and
Hmm.
he's beautiful.
yeah. But to answer your question, have I lost friends? I don't think I ever lost anybody that was in my space. I told myself I lost friends
Okay.
because even with you, Pastor G, I felt like I shamed myself from a
Mm,
lot of relationships.
yes.
And they were just like, you know, why you didn't tell us?
Right.
You get married, so we could have bought you a gift. Like,
Right.
we were just mad we weren't there to say congratulations.
Right.
Versus,
Right.
being in that space of shaming yourself. And so that's what I want to say. To somebody that's listening, you know, you will find yourself. I found myself having much more acceptance in standing in my truth than I ever had living in my lie.
Mm,
Mm.
Because when I lived in my lie, people just kind of had that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But standing in your truth is just like, okay, come on, let's
This is what
be,
it
let's
is.
this.
Yeah.
They'll rah rah rah. I have a nephew that if you thinking about calling me gay in front of him,
Mm,
I'm like, I'm really afraid.
right.
you know, he's just that, and he is man's man and rah rah rah. But and I'm finding myself around people that the same way. It's like, no, 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 that's just wrong.
Mm.
And so you've got to take the gay away and really just live in your truth.
It goes back again to being celebrated and not tolerated.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm asking all these questions because I know folk don't know. Because sometimes some of these questions, this one in particular, I don't know. So we talked about the gay spectrum, right? So we have from RuPaul to Ryan. He don't look gay. So when people start talking about transgender and uh, I'm still not sure. I got the LGBT. What's the QAI? So you see, I'm counting them. I just, yeah, I just for the Hill House graduates like myself that struggle with the alphabet. In whatever order y'all want to take that, but because really with the transgender thing, I'm just like I don't even know what that means. I know, and I don't know if this is a bad term, so don't get mad at me. Is transgender the new term for transvestite? Because they used to call them transvestite. I just don't know. So could y'all help me and the people? Because I don't know.
So I'm gonna go ahead and tag team with
Please
Ryan
help me.
with this. So again, I already kind of alluded to how old I am.
Yes. Yes.
I was born in '64.
Okay.
So so it was LG.
Oh, okay. You wait. You really starting with just two letters. We
Right.
we got the whole alphabet now. Okay.
You got a whole lot of things that have been added to it.
Okay. So take us
And
slow. So LG.
so either you're a lesbian or you're gay.
Okay.
And right.
Okay.
So lesbian, L, G, gay,
Mm-hmm.
B, bisexual, T, transgender, Q, questioning or queer. So it can be as expansive as it is.
Okay. Okay.
Like, right? So there are a lot of other alphabets that we add to it to talk about the spectrum of sexuality.
Okay.
So there are people who are heterosexual in relationships,
Okay.
who are married, who are not having sex.
Oh, I ain't getting married for that, doctor.
I understand that,
I'm
but
just
you need to understand, but that exists.
wow. Okay.
Okay?
Okay. I'm praying. I'm praying. I'm praying, doctor. Go ahead. Walk
Right.
us through.
I mean, I'm thinking that after my parents have been married 50 something years, they probably weren't having as much sex. as they used to.
Okay.
So what I'm talking about is the fluidity of sexual activity
Mm-hmm.
as a result of menopause, as a result of low T, as a result of all these things that are attributing factors.
Okay.
But as Westerners, we don't ever talk about that,
Right.
right? Like there are some heterosexual people who are in committed relationships and they have no sex. They're lucky if they do. Okay. So then you have the other, I want to call it variations on a fugue, right? It's the same song. This
Okay.
is it's another part of the score
Okay.
that they are self-identifying as non-binary, which means don't put me in the box of male or female. I'm XY chromosome, and you're not going to get to name me because I'm both. So I refer to myself as they. So English says you need to either be he or she because I'm trying to make you fit into my bubble. I'm trying to get you to fit into my understanding. But if you look at even how worms procreate, I'm just saying, Google it.
So, okay,
Look it.
so, all right.
I just got deep.
Wait.
Okay.
So, LG, I think I'm stuck in, would you say 64? I
Yeah,
think
that's
I'm,
where I was born.
I think I'm still stuck with the L and the G's.
Hmm.
Because what exactly, what does queer mean? Because I just thought queer was another name for gay. And if you a boy, then you gay, or a girl, then you're lesbian. No, I'm messing up. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I don't pretend to have all the answers.
No, but you got more answers than I do at this present moment.
And it depends on how that person identifies themselves. And so it gets into how do I name myself? It's not just about sexuality or gender or those things that we want to control. It's about how that person identifies himself, which is freeing as opposed to binding. Because if I say I'm a dude, or if I say I'm a girl, I'm a man, I'm a woman, then you automatically have this preconceived, preset ways in which I must show up in the world. Like, right? So what happens when my my female spouse is a surgeon and my male husband is a teacher and I have a baby, but who is the breadwinner? Like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go along the preconceived notions of the man is supposed to be the breadwinner, and we are living off of a teacher salary versus a surgeon salary, then you got a problem. So part of the queering of our understanding is that I don't get to put a box on who does what because I'm a I'm a man who is a hairstylist. I mean, back in my day, you wanted your hairstylist to be a woman and you wanted your doctor to be a man.
Mm.
My primary doctor is a woman, and my hairstylist at one point in time used to be a man. My church musician. Okay, come on, I'm gonna bring it down. You back in the day, if you were a dude who was taking piano lessons instead of playing football, you were soft, you were gay. But now everybody a musician,
That's true.
right?
That's true.
So we put people in these boxes and categories, and we base it on their gender rather than their gifting. So when we start talking about queer, it's like The queering of our society lends itself to, I'm not gonna put you in the box that society has put you in. Hairstyler, woman, nurse, male, teacher, woman, uh, lawyer, male, doctor, male. You know, I'm gonna tell you, I came across a situation. I was at a club at a birthday party, not a club, but a birthday party, and two women walked in, and they were very sexily dressed. Low cleavage, the whole 9 yards, and I was like, "Hey, how y'all doing? I'm here, da da da, celebrating." They're like, "Hey, I'm here, da da da. How do y'all know him? How you know her?" Kind of things like, "Oh well, um, I'm his doctor." Oh shit! I'm like, oh, face fall on the ground because you didn't fit the mold
Mm.
of what a doctor should look like. So part of the queering of our society, part of the queering of our church means that queer means you don't necessarily fall under the understanding of what I think you should be. So it's not just about sexuality, it's about mindset. It's like I see a dude who is a get your nails done, there's probably going to be a Korean brother who can also do your nails. But we
So
don't attribute
so
that to sexuality.
so all of the letters have to do with you being able to identify how you want to be identified, is what you're saying.
Part of,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but not limited to.
This sounds like algebra or geometry, you know.
All right,
I get what
Ryan, you're on mute. Hit
Ryan,
your mute
unmute
button.
yourself. Ryan, unmute yourself. I don't know how that happened. You can't unmute yourself. It says you have yourself muted over here. I don't think I can help. Let's see.
Say something.
It still says he has himself muted. Go out and come back in. It's a spirit. Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. That's it.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
So I don't have the, I was born in 1981. You know, I don't have the flat stomach to really promote that the way that some people like to. But I think so. Queer is that, so it's LGBT, like you said, lesbian, gay, bisexual, the transgender, the questioning, which is always confusing because that can be pansexual, which is I'm just attracted to whatever I choose to be attracted to at the time. Queer is just I don't want to be identified. I just want to be whatever. And then you've got the intersex, which I still don't know what that definition means. And you've got the asexual, or in the term of LGBTQIA, it's the allies. So those that are, they're going to fight for LGBTQIA rights, but they're not necessarily LGBTQIA. They just identify as an ally. And
Got it.
so that whole like Doctor was saying about the questioning and the queer, it's just a bunch of question marks. Like, is you or is you not? Or what's um, that what they call it now, they call it androgynous is the word.
Mm.
Um, that's what that the term, that definition. But it's so many terms. Is I know a lot of people just like, okay, just A or B, black, white, yes or no.
Well, that's why I
But
said I think I'm stuck in 64 because the LG part makes sense, and maybe the queer part makes sense. But I was lost on the transgender and all of the other letters, and but I do get being able to identify however fluid fluid you want to be. I get it. I get that. I get that. Um, yeah, I
yeah,
understand that, and I hope that explained it for those that are watching also.
and so, but I appreciate this conversation because as I tell my one of my sisters, or not one of my sisters and my siblings, it's better to know and have that conversation to say, okay, what does this mean, or how do you feel, or what are your thoughts about this, versus the assumptive thought, like, you know, you
I,
embrace it all, like you
and
said,
you
like
know
all
what? I
gays should
think
swing from chandelier.
I hope that even though folks is in hiding and they probably will watch it later like they do the show a lot, um, I'm hoping though that people get an understanding, because what's happening is it's one thing for people our age and older to browbeat each other and do all kinds of dumbness, but when you have younger people who are struggling and don't know which way they're going, and uh, first of all they're afraid of their parents, they don't know what that's going to be, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a safe place, which I'm a whole pastor and sometimes I ain't got a safe place, so I know they ain't got no safe place. um, so it's like, we joke about having a therapist, but every young person doesn't have access to that, because then they have to go back to their parent for it. um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like to be able to at least shed a little bit of light on, oh, this is what I might be, or I might be this, you know, but just to have the tools to say, well, maybe, you know, I don't know. Let me hit Ryan up in his inbox and tell him I may be a or a I. You know what I mean? Just give it
Right,
to
right, right.
and even for pastors who, and I know they struggle, and I know there's gonna be a lot of church hurt that come out of the gay community when they come to church, because they just don't know what to do with it. I understand you're gifted. We had you sing and write all of our songs for years. You're the top writers on the Billboard charts and the artists that we love, but we make you stay in the closet when it comes to everything else. You're good enough to entertain us. You're good enough to make us cry with your songs, but you ain't good enough to serve in our local assembly. And that's the bipolarness of the church.
Mm. Come on now,
And it
Pastor.
makes so many preachers and lay folk be in hiding. And like you were saying, Ryan, you can't you because they'll say you can't. You got to be one or the other. And there are going to be some preachers that say, "Oh, Tarolyn is compromising," and I think the word that the doctor used earlier would be fitting, but I can't say it because I'm Pentecostal. Um, but
Say it with me.
Pastor, you
they'll send
said,
you to hell until it's their son or daughter,
Yeah,
and
yep,
then
mm,
they're
yep.
trying to justify and hide and make them whoever they want them to be. And it's like, come on, we got to grow up. And I said this to Ryan. I think both the church and the LGBTQIA community, they both have to grow up and understand, like, this is what it's been. It's not going to change overnight, but let's find a happy medium where nobody's hurt and we all can grow in God together. Wouldn't that be nice? Praise God.
Pastor, let me say this. If the church can't be the balm in Gilead,
Mm-hmm.
it's missing its calling.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the thing about it is that if we were to put homosexuality in the realm of sin, which I do not,
I'm glad you
then
brought that up because that was going to be my next question. If if
okay,
if homosexuality isn't a sin, then what are we doing? No, how does that work?
right,
Yes.
right. There are a lot of things that separate us from the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, uh, the word for sin in the Greek, look it up. I can't tell you right now because we're at 9:48, but I can tell you in about 2 seconds. But the word for sin means missing the mark.
Mm,
There are a lot of things that keep us from missing the mark.
absolutely.
I mean, nobody talks about the male pastors
Oh
who
God.
sleep with members of the church,
Amen.
impregnating them, having offspring, and still being able to sit as pastor, as
Mm.
bishop,
Oh my.
as
Talk about it, doctor.
mm.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
So if we're talking about missing the mark, how can love miss the mark?
Mm,
And that's why homosexuality is not a sin.
mm,
Uh, Consensual reciprocity between two people in a loving monogamous relationship, how can that be sin? And the fact of the matter is that homosexuality, the word, didn't come across in biblical interpretation until the 18th century.
mm,
So we all know in the Bible precedes the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
Some scholar in their own mind decided to create that word.
Mm-hmm.
So the etymology of the word homosexual didn't come around until the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we're going to do about Jesus century, which was like 1 BC,
Mm-hmm.
2 BC, or AD, 1 AD, 2 AD. It didn't create that. So when you start talking about biblical stuff around homosexuality, it doesn't exist in the Bible at all. At all. Because we're talking about love. So love is patient, love is kind. That's the definition of love. So when we start talking about how do we reconcile where we are now and questioning, inquisitive people who are along this whole entire spectrum that we inherited from Western theology as to what my sexuality looks like, right? So the church needs to be embracing. You know, if in the event that you want to put it in the category of sin, what do you do with the addict who comes to church drunk? You love on that person, you nurture that person, you wait till they get clean and sober, you give them the things that they need in order to survive. If you want to put it in that category, which I don't put sexuality at all, because I am totally aware of my sexuality and totally embracing. But the church has to make the shift to say, for God so loved the world. And that includes me in my same gender loving capacity, in my not sure who I love or how I'm going to love them, but does it dishonor my humanity? So I think the church has done some harm
Mm.
in go there. What have we done to the young woman who suddenly became pregnant? No, didn't suddenly become pregnant. She slept with a young boy and we sat her down. And we said that her testimony, her service to the church was now null and void. But that boy, he's still on the usher board. He's still
Playing the
singing in the choir.
drums.
He's still playing the drums. And we
And
made
getting
him
the rest.
okay.
I have
And
someone in the
and
Come on,
comment that
man.
says, I don't care who you choose to love. However, this is Amy. It's when you date the other sex and try playing around like you're straight. That's a problem for me. And Gloria says, serious problem. Be true to who you really are.
That's an integrity issue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
living
That
in your truth. But if you can't tell yourself the truth, because I will say this, there are people running around here that don't even know they're gay because they won't tell themselves the truth. I like A or B,
I like
or
big
I like
butts and I cannot lie.
I like a hole, and I don't know which one to choose. And
Listen.
and
Praise
it's
God.
okay. It's okay. But when you cannot identify, and I totally get it, because coming from a perspective of a man that married a woman that was still confused and had a lot of questions and things like that, I go back to the place, not that it was right. So I'm not justifying or making it right, but I just want to give a peek into that. If he can't live authentically in himself, you cannot pursue anything with it. And stop attaching yourself to these men because they dress nice, they preach, they anointed, and then you say, "Oh, but they had a woman, they had a boyfriend on the side." You kind of knew that there were some questions there because there were some inauthentic parts there, and so um, that's the only thing I can give you is that it is true. You have a problem with the people that can't live in it that don't tell the truth. It's because they can't live in their truth. And then we have to go back to the space of, you know, really accepting that they're not telling the truth, not because they're bad people. They just can't live in their truth.
Right. Right.
Whatever it is that happened to them. And that's where I think we have to really accept that humanistic part, that you don't have the capacity to live in your truth. And because you don't have the capacity to live in your truth, I need to beware because, again, I know them. I've seen them. I know some of them still that are quick to be in my DMs, but posting pictures of somebody else.
Oh, glory. Oh, glory.
And so, I don't play those games, so just let you know that.
Yeah.
But in the same token, when I did not know myself, I did play those games. So I'm not gonna flip the script and say, "Oh, I know,
Gotcha.
It happens, and we have to be present with ourselves to acknowledge that some people just can't accept who they really are themselves, and they want and it goes even to this, looking back at even with both my marriages, you know, I was trying to save them, they were trying and hoping that they saved me.
Ah.
And until you save yourself, which means know who you are, you can't really be in a healthy relationship because you spend so much time always trying to save this person,
Mm.
you know, versus okay, I can't,
Two whole
like
people coming together, really. It's not two whole people
Exactly.
coming together. We're gonna wrap this up, but let me just ask this one question because I know Doctor got to go to bed. Um, do you think it's getting any better, or do you think the church is just as behind as it was all of these years ago?
I think it's getting a lot better. I'm no longer pastoring. I mean, I left my church in August of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And we were a very affirming, accepting, inclusive church. And I came to become a presbytery leader, which means I have 75 churches that are under my guidance and authority
in
and
in the
that kind of.
Pentecostal world, she's a bishop.
We don't have bishops in the Christian church. And
I
so,
know, but I'm talking to the Pentecostals. She's a
okay,
bishop.
that's fine. That's fine. And I don't make any. I tell people my wife is in Charlotte, and so I'm going to work from home these 2 weeks of the month, or that case, whatever case of matter. That and I don't blink an eye. So I think it's gotten a whole lot better.
Mm.
And I made the decision that I'm not gonna try. I've had a boyfriend, even though he wasn't a boyfriend. I've hidden my sexuality. I
Mm-hmm.
was also in the military for 20 years. And in 2012, I finally got the freedom to say who I was. So I have served in silence about
Mm.
my total life,
Mm-hmm.
like, right? And I've been there, done that, got t-shirt, shot glass, the flag, whatever paraphernalia you wanna conjure up. And so I've been there. I don't have to do that anymore. When I got married, after 12 years of being in a relationship with my wife, after 12 years, I had a wedding in an Episcopal church with pictures and all that kind of stuff saying, hey, just me. This is who I am. So yes, things have gotten better. I had to find a new hairstylist. I said, well, my wife doesn't live here in Detroit, but this is where I live now. And so I have made a decision that I'm not going to live in that shame or that place of you deal with your stuff because I'm good with mine.
Mm.
So has it gotten better? Yes, it has because of my mindset.
Got you. Got you.
I think it has because we've been in a pandemic and the churches have been shut down, and some of these churches may not ever reopen. And if you ain't changed your approach and acceptance and reality, because see, folks have been home, you know, I'm gonna use this vernacular because this that the theory. The gays been at home swinging from chandelier to chandelier, and they got comfortable watching these virtual churches, so they can accept and move on. There's that moving on space. Now, again, I don't believe in that gays are swinging from chandelier to chandelier. I just use it as a joke in my shenanigans.
Yeah.
But just going to the point of, people, it's now a point of, okay, I'll go to this church for praise and worship because they praise and worship is on point. And then I'll go to this church for the preaching because these 5 preachers got it. And then I'll go to this church for Bible study. People have options now. And the traumatization, the church has to wake up and stop traumatizing and shaming people. Because it used to be that whole thing where you don't love God if you don't come to church on Mondays or Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Sundays and do this and do that. Now I think the pandemic has taught people that they can have freedom and liberty and still be connected to God. Because there are because Pastor T, you've had some services that girl, you just mind blown. And I think, with this pandemic and situation, the playing field has been leveled. You are now able to be in the same space. Some of these churches, they got the theatrics and the great gay musicians that's over their choirs and the robes and that put their wives together and armor bearing them and, the lesbians, all of that. And the theatrics is gone. Now it's just you and a camera. There's no amen corner. There's no organ. And you're having to really teach or say something because people can just swipe.
What? Yeah, that swipe is deadly. And my block button is serious. Block you in a minute.
And so it's about people accepting and the church has to, let's just be real. The Pope, if he could change the canons in the church laws, he would. But this Pope, out of the hundreds of years, has said gays should be treated with human kindness. It may take 5 more other popes to finally say gays are accepted. But once the Catholic Church accepts the gays, everybody else going to follow on.
I think everyone should be treated with kindness and decency. And that you're muted, doctor. It's definitely a thing where you should treat everybody like a human being, and we have to
Definitely.
and that's the bottom line. That's what the church is about. I do understand, and I think we all do because I don't want to hear it. Don't get in my inbox that I'm going soft on them. This is not for a debate or a fight. This is for understanding. And if you can't understand that, too bad. Delete me. Don't debate me. And that's just where I'm at with it. I'm like, we have boxed so many people into a corner that, and we've boxed our own selves in as a result. And it's time for us to be able to be like the doctor said, the healing balm to those young people that are coming up, and even to us old people that still might be dealing with certain stuff. The information she was sharing about relationships earlier isn't gender specific. It's not, preference. It's relational issues. Gloria said everyone should be treated like a human being and with love, and that's what we're gonna end with on this note. Y'all got any final words? Because we're gonna hit the button, and then if y'all hold on for a second, I'll put them out, and then we'll talk for 5 seconds, and I'll let y'all go. Any final words?
The
Holiness is still right, and you can still be. Holiness is still right. I'm not saying that there is no different because, I feel like I'm that extreme. Apostolic, Pentecostal to Presbyterian, that there is still holiness. For those that are wanting to say, well, that ain't holiness, and how does this apply to holiness? Holiness is not about your sexuality or individuality. It's setting yourself apart for God. It's really, to be real, real, when you set yourself apart, you're not playing into what people think you should be, or you're playing into the gossip or the whispers. you're really setting yourself apart to say, God, this is who I am.
Mm.
Now you deal with me.
Absolutely.
That's my last. I'm gonna shut
All
up.
right. Doctor, any final words?
Yes. So I'm not of the tradition that as a mantra or as a theological statement that we say holiness is right.
Okay.
But I'm going to say that relationships are paramount.
Mm.
Your relationship with God and your relationship with others.
Mhm.
You know, and so that's the crux of the matter
Mm.
of how we understand who God is and who God wants us to be. So I would say that look at what the letter of the law says about love. And if it aligns itself with the letter of the law, what the scripture says about love, and you align yourself with that, then that is God's will, God's purpose, God's impartation to you as to how you should live your life. And that's it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. This is your Tia's talking session, spirituality and sexuality. We'll see you next Sunday. God bless y'all, and we'll see you next week.